Good morning. Welcome to NRCME Training Systems. This is a video tutorial on how to perform a DOT medical examination and its documentation period. Now, we're not going to focus very much on the examination itself because we have developed a training program that allows you to learn all aspects and facets of the DOT examination. This video tutorial is specifically designed to help you fill out the exam form. Now, many of you are asking, why does anybody need help filling out the exam form? Well, through numerous emails and through my training that I've been performing throughout the United States over the last 3 years, it's evident that the exam form is a point of concern for a lot of examiners, and they feel like that if they don't fill it out correctly, they could get in trouble by the FMCSA. I don't think that they're specifically going to get in trouble, but I think that there is an easy way to fill out this exam form that will make all examiners comfortable. So we decided to create this video tutorial to assist all of you in performing a DOT examination documentation. We are a training company. We have designed an online training program that will help you meet and exceed the DOT mandated requirements for the National Registry program. We know all examiners will need certified training. NRCME Training Systems has an online training program that will meet and exceed the federal mandated requirements. We are NRCME accredited via Oakstone Medical Publishing for our MD, DO, PA, and nurse practitioners, as well as some chiropractic physicians. And then for those chiropractic physicians that are not NRCME accredited, we are also PACE accredited, specifically for the chiropractic profession. The nice thing about our program is you don't have to get on a plane and leave your home and your family and spend time in a hotel and eat meals, and you can go at your own pace. Whereas in a didactic lecture system, you go at the pace of the instructor, and this is usually slowed down significantly by 3 to 4 hours in a total training program based on the interaction with the audience and the questions. And for some examiners that are seasoned, they want to get through this, and they basically want to sit for their exam. So that's why we created an online training program. We know that it's going to be easy to do this program in the comfort of your own home or office. You can take your time. Over 700 slides and 27 modules of training. And then, of course, you'll get the free access to our resource library of necessary DOT forms, guidelines, calculators, and more. And when I say more, we're going to be going over a PDF examination form today that will basically allow you to use your laptop. And you can fill in this form directly off of your laptop. And you'll be able to print it as well. We feel we have the highest level of training in the country. I've been working on this program with my team for almost 5 years, and we have gone through and vetted this program no less than 10 times. So we feel the information is accurate, and we feel that the information that we provide you will give you the tools and the armament needed to pass the NRCME examination. Our fee is $695 for 1 month subscription. So that gives you 30 days to go through all the modules of training, and will allow you to go back and review those modules right before you sit for the exam, and hopefully will give you a very good passing mark on the NRCME examination. In addition, we hope that you will become one of the finest NRCME examiners in the country by utilizing our program. We will also provide you a certificate upon completion, which is an FMCSA requirement. You will be eligible for 12 continuing medical education hours through the NRCME or the PACE, as we discussed before. The nice thing about this is if you get going now, before May 21st, 2014, when it's mandated, you can begin to guarantee your niche in your area in the DOT market. And that's what a lot of this is about, is carving out your area of DOT services. And by becoming an NRCME examiner, quickly after this program is available to sit for the exam, which is August 21st, 2012, you will be one of the first in your area, I'm sure, to be an NRCME examiner. For more information, you can go to our website at www.nrcme.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter, or you can go right to the purchase training page off of our website, and you can get going today. All right, let's talk about this long form of the exam. Now, I've kind of taken the liberty to do some of the basic demographics here before we get started. I don't want to bore you with going from field to field entering in information, but I'll just go over this very quickly. If you'll notice, if you're a seasoned examination specialist in DOT, that you have seen this form many, many times. For those that haven't, or those that are fairly new and unfamiliar with it, this is the DOT examination form. Now, the form itself has not changed in many years, and there are some flaws in the form, which we all know, but you can work through those flaws, and hey, the rest of us have to, so you might as well work through them as well. So, about the form, you can write anywhere on the outside of this form. Make notations. And the reason is because there may be clarification points that you're trying to make. There may be issues that you want to bring up later or on a subsequent examination. Now, how long do you keep this form? It ranges anywhere between 3 and 7 years. I recommend that you store these digitally through a PDF scanning system for approximately 7 years. That gives you a chance to query in a PDF database system. Gives you a chance to query back 2 or 3 years on the same driver if you have questions or concerns, or you want to see anything that you might have made mention of on previous examinations. This form specifically is or was designed by NRCME Training Systems, and it's in our reference library, and with a subscription you will have access to this free for life. This is a form that can be filled in on your computer while you're sitting in front of the driver, or you can just print it off and fill it out by hand if you'd like. You'll also notice here in the right upper corner I've added something, and that is called the company field. It's very handy to know from previous examinations what company you're working for. That gives you an idea of where your resources are coming from, and it will assist you in basically knowing just who you're working for. If you have a new company, it allows you to maybe give them a call and introduce yourself, and that does nothing but provide a lot of bonding and good quality relationship with the DERs of the company that you will be dealing with. Now, this examination is broken down into sections, and we know the driver's information section can be basically performed by your staff. Okay? The biggest issue in this upper section here is this new certification, recertification, or follow-up. New certification is for individuals that have never had an examination before or are coming to a new company and they want, the company wants a new examination. Recertification would be an individual that's been working for the same company for numerous years, and their card has simply expired and they need a recertification exam. Then a follow-up examination is an examination that is done when somebody's been out for a period of time due to illness, sickness, from, say, cardiovascular surgical intervention, or some other type of illness that's put them on the disabled list, essentially from trucking or school bus driving, and it is a requirement that that individual come in for a follow-up. And we go over the follow-up program basically in our online training program. Of course, the date of exam and all of the specific demographics of the driver are listed. When it comes to license class, A, B, C, D, or other is essentially a state mandate, and most examiners will come in with a Class C license. But that can be copied off of the off of the driver's license, and of course the state of issue. Now we go to the second portion of the examination. There are 7 parts of the examination, and the health history. And one of the major flaws in this form is where these boxes line up with the specific questions asked. And there may be some confusion on the part of your drivers. So this area right here is very important because this is where the boxes kind of go out of line with the questions asked. As you can see, heart surgery, valve replacement, bypass, angioplasty, or pacemaker question is asked, but then the box wasn't spaced down, and basically the blood pressure is off just a smidge here to the right. And then muscular disease and then shortness of breath finishes that out. Make sure that they write down any medications that they're taking, and they can even provide you a list of medications. Then we go through all of the other disease processes and diabetes. Now, if somebody's taking insulin, you're not going to basically say, well, that's it, you can't drive. We list and give all the requirements of insulin mandate from the FMCSA on our training program. But the insulin box itself does not kill the examination. You will continue on with an examination and certify them as otherwise healthy or otherwise certifiable. And then they will have to have a waiver that they present with. It's a 2-year certification provided by the FMCSA once they complete the diabetes waiver program. And then any of the other questions are simply yes or no. In the box below that, this is where they basically tell you what they had done. Now, most drivers are very compliant with that, but some aren't. So you might have to help them around a little bit. The driver's signature, you're going to want to make sure that they sign that and that they put the date. Now, this is your first real interaction on this form with the driver, and that is the medical examiner's comments on health history. I just typed something in here this morning for speed, just to show you exactly some of the wording that you can use. As a matter of fact, this form allows you a lot of laterality, so you can basically say what you want. It's to give a third party an idea of what you were doing, number one, and number two, it gives you an idea of what you were doing at the time that you did the examination. He sees Dr. Shamed for his hypertension, takes lisinopril. Last visit, April 2012, stable. I mean stable on the medication. NIDDM, controlled with diet and exercise. He's lost 35 pounds in the last 6 months. Okay, so now you've gone over everything with this individual. And one thing I would kind of highlight here is under sleep disorders. We have a section of OSA, or obstructive sleep apnea, in our program, and I would suggest that you ask the individual if their spouse complains of them snoring, especially if they meet certain weight parameters, neck circumferences, and they look fatigued or they feel like they're fatigued a lot. You're going to want to ask specific questions there, and then you will document that in the medical examiner's comments on health history section. Now we begin the actual examination itself, and as you can see in this computer-generated form, this transfers the name and address, or excuse me, the name of the examiner. And we're not going to go through the specifics of the vision qualifications, and the reason is because there is one entire module on the vision examination and the requirements of the visual examination. So I'm just specifically going to enter in the findings. Now, uncorrected or corrected, that question is asked nonstop, it seems, every week. I get emails with regards to the uncorrected or the corrected box. Do we do both? No. The uncorrected would be if they have no contacts or they have no glasses, or they've had RK, or they've had LASIK, or they've had cataracts, and they've had surgical intervention that has corrected the problem. Corrected means if they are utilizing something that corrects them, some physical means that corrects their vision, which would be contacts or glasses. So you would check that box, but you don't have to check both of them or go through both columns. You really do need to check both eyes, though, because as we know, individuals that have weakness in one eye, when through accommodation over time, when you use both eyes, they usually have much more clarity and visual acuity. The horizontal field of vision is very important because we're trying to rule out any kind of monocular vision. Now, what is monocular vision? Monocular vision is basically an individual cannot see or grossly fails the eye evaluation, the visual evaluation in one eye. That is called monocular vision. And there is an application process for a waiver in this instance. So again, you would complete the entire examination and document that at the end of the exam. There is a colorblind requirement. Doesn't provide the necessity for going out and buying expensive plates. It's simply they have to determine the difference between red, green, and amber, and we go over that in our training program as well. The applicant meets visual acuity requirement only when wearing corrective lenses. You have to check that. Now, here is one of the biggest mistakes that's made on a DOT examination. There are 3 places in this examination long form that you need to document if they have corrective lenses. The first one is right here. You would just basically place an X here. The second is if you go all the way down to the end of the examination, you will find that there it is again, wearing corrective lenses. Then if you go down to the driver's certificate, you will find wearing corrective lenses. What happens is with a lot of examiners is they get in a conversation with the driver and they get kind of off their mark a little bit, and they will basically forget to mark one, or they'll always mark the first one, but they'll forget to mark it on the back page and on the driver's certificate. So our recommendation is that when you fill out this exam form and you check corrective lenses, that you check it in all 3 spots at one time so you've completed the task. We go on to, well, before we get to hearing, this area right here would be if you decided to defer performing a visual exam for some reason. You could send this form to an ophthalmologist or an optometrist, and then they would have to put their information here. I don't know too many people that do that. The examination is essentially fairly simple with a Snellen chart, and again, we go over all of that in an entire module in our program. Hearing. This is basically a field test or a 5-foot force whisper test, and essentially if you're at 5 feet and they can hear you whisper basically 3 or 4 numbers, they pass the examination. And you are going to want to check if a hearing aid is used for tests and if a hearing aid is required to meet the standard. And again, we go over that in our hearing module. We also go over how to calculate average hearing loss, and we give the limits and parameters for that as well. Blood pressure is your number 1 problem, probably, in my estimate, in the DOT world, and the blood pressure is going to be systolic over diastolic, of course, and a pulse rate, and whether it's regular or irregular, because we're checking for arrhythmias, of course, and then the record pulse rate here. And then over here it gives you some breakdown. Mind you, the hypertension standard is a discretionary standard on the part of the examiner, but I would recommend that you follow this very closely because almost all companies across the country know these rules and they have access to it. And if you veer away from this recommendation panel here, you will probably end up with numerous questions. So you're better off to stay within these parameters. Number 6 section, laboratory and other test findings. This is exactly what it says. We're going to be doing a urine dipstick, and we're going to be doing specific gravity, protein, blood, and sugar. If there were any other kind of test findings, you would include them here in this area, and I've basically pre-typed this in. MRI of lower back taken in 2007 was negative. He had a hemoglobin A1C level of 7.2. You can put exercise tolerance test results here, and when you get the exercise tolerance test reports or cardiac ultrasound or anything that you have that you feel is beneficial in helping you to make determination for certification, you're going to want to take those copies and just basically staple that onto this examination form to the back. That is always good for you because it gives you documentation that you did get the information prior to certification. And in the instance that unfortunately an accident occurs, the authorities will request that from you. Again, I recommend that you scan all of this in a PDF format and store this digitally. And I would suggest even that you not store it on your local servers or your local computer unless you're well backed up. You might consider the cloud. That's the new technology terminology these days. All of our documentation is stored on a cloud server, so there is numerous redundancies there. All of our programs, all of our examination forms are also queryable in a database, so we can do it by name, which pulls them up very quickly. Now we go to the actual physical examination where we've recorded the height and the weight, and again this is pulled through from the initial entering on our form, and this is essentially the body systems that we will be evaluating. We're going to be checking in the general appearance section for marked overweight, tremor, or any other abnormalities. Our eye exam. Do you need to use an ophthalmoscope in all of your exams? No, you do not. The FMCSA basically recommends that if you have reason to, you should use an ophthalmoscope. And in this case, you probably would because this individual has a diagnosis of diabetes. The ears, the only way to note if there's any scarring of tympanic membrane is to evaluate with an otoscope, or there's any occlusion. And for some reason, it seems like our trucking individuals have a lot of cerumen in their ears, so it's a good idea to check that. Mouth and throat, heart, of course. The heart is extremely important in a DOT examination, and you're listening for murmurs, extra sounds, a large heart, pacemaker, and of course an implantable defibrillator. Now, the only time that an examination will be absolutely shut down and you will not go forward is in the history section. You will find that an individual has an implantable defibrillator. Implantable defibrillators are not allowed for DOT examinations, period. Sorry, I said period. I'm so used to utilizing dictation, I put a period in there. So you will be utilizing the history aspect of this examination to evaluate whether there is an implantable defibrillator, because that will shut down your examination. They are not certifiable. Now, in some states, the school bus driver programs do allow implantable defibrillators, and you'll have to know the rules in your own state. Of course, the abnormal chest wall expansion and the abnormal respiratory rates are also included in this examination, as well as palpation of the quadrants of the abdomen. And I recommend highly that you auscultate for abdominal bruit, because that is a incapacitating event if that does rupture, and we know we don't have much time to get a driver over to the side of the road if something like that happens. Hernias are mandated that they are evaluated. However you decide to do it, you have to document that there is not a hernia. I don't know that I've seen too many sequestered hernias that come on as an incapacitating event, but they do come on, and they do come on gradually, and they do worsen significantly. The individual, if they have any kind of extremity problem, that needs to be documented here as well. And then the SPE program, we go over that very detailed in our online training program. Previous surgery, deformities, limitation of motion or tenderness of the spine. We did document that in our lab section here, that this individual did have an MRI, and that was negative. And then, of course, a neurological evaluation, and that will complete your examination. Under the comments section, this program allows you to enter in 3 or 4 lines of text. And in this little program, which again is free to you to use as you need, in our resource library, once you matriculate in our program, you will be able to utilize this as basically a documentation area. And basically, you're going to include NIDDM is under control. Recent HbA1c is under FMCSA minimums, hypertension meds, and diagnosis of NIDDM, 1-year certification. Now we go down into the certification status area of the long form, which is very important. We know that the individual had, if they do have corrective lenses, we would have probably already checked this. Now on this program, if you check the first time, I believe it goes ahead and checks the other 2 wearing corrective lenses boxes for you. But it's been some time since our since our designer worked on this, so I have to double check if that is correct. The normal certification is going to be a 2-year certification, and this is a large percentage of the DOT examinations that you'll see will get this basic 2-year certification. If they don't meet standards, which would be an implantable defibrillator, you will check this box. If you want to pen this for some reason, you're wanting more information, you're just not happy with a certain aspect of this examination, you could check this box as well. But you're going to want to document why they did not meet the standards. They meet the standards, but periodic monitoring will required to hypertension or NIDDM. And again, all the certification periods are covered in our training program. And we know with hypertension and NIDDM, they get a minimum or a maximum of a 1-year certification. They can be temporarily disqualified due to a condition or medication, and they will return to the examiner's office for a follow-up on, and that would be if you would give them, let's say if they had a trace to a moderate amount of sugar in their urine and they had no idea that they had that, you would want to refer them out to their primary care for evaluation. So to keep them driving, you could give them a 2-month or a 2-week or a 3-week or a 4-week certification card. So you'd check other here, okay? And then you could basically have them come back before a certain date. You could schedule them to come back on a certain date where they would have to have that information for you. Of course, wearing corrective lenses, wearing hearing aid, and here you would basically certify somebody is good for a 2-year card. You could do on a diabetic, you could say a meets standards qualifies for a 2-year certificate, okay, right here, because otherwise they're qualified. But you would go over here and then check accompanied by a diabetes waiver. So basically, they can drive for 2 years as long as they have a diabetes waiver. Okay? So this doesn't mean that they're not qualified to drive. This simply means that they otherwise are certifiable, but they would have to have a diabetes waiver. Or a skilled performance evaluation if they're missing a hand, foot, arm, leg, and they have an orthosis. They will have to be evaluated at a skilled performance center, which we go over in great detail in our program. The driving in an intra-city exempt zone is something that few of us will ever see, but essentially that's in Manhattan, New York. The qualified by operation of 49 CFR 391.64 is the vision waiver program that was many years ago, and there are very few drivers anymore that are in that program. Of course, you're going to want to sign, and you're going to want to put your name, address, and phone number. Now, in this program, we've included an additional documentation page, and basically you can just jabber on as long as you want about these any abnormalities that you found. Or you don't have to. You can just put it all in this area right here. But we just give you a little bit of extra room that you can document. Then, of course, you have the medical examiner certificate, which is the document that they carry with them in their wallet. They will have to show the authorities. And, of course, you will fill out the name here and whether they have any restrictions. And then your signature, telephone, and today's date, or the date of the exam. That's very important because that has to coincide with the medical certificate expiration date, whether it's a year or 2 years or any date, any amount of time that you set. Your name and what ilk of an examiner you are, your license number and the state of issue, signature of the driver, and then their license number, state, and then their address, and then, of course, very important, the expiration date. Please do not let them out without an expiration date and your signature on it. Now, this driver certificate is the old driver certificate, and it may be used through May 21st, 2014, or before NRCME registry number is attained by the medical examiner. After May 21st of 2014, you will be required to use a new examination certificate, driver certificate, and that will include a national registry number, of course, right here. You can use that after May 21st. You'll have to use that after May 21st, 2012, or after you attain your NRCME registry status. And that is pretty much the examination form. It's not hard to do, but you will hopefully have learned something from this and to make you a little bit more comfortable on how to fill out the form and the driver's certificate. We are NRCME Training Systems, and we are your provider of NRCME registry training. Thank you for your time.